I'm Sandra, and this day has taken two people I love away from me at once. I'm in total shock right now. I never thought this could happen to me. Billy and I started hanging out recently. I hadn't really noticed him before. We were just friends. Hanging out, that's all. But this summer, Billy changed a lot. I hadn't seen him in a couple of months because he was staying with his grandmother. And when I ran into him on the street, little pimply Billy was gone. Now he was a handsome, tall guy with a stylish haircut. Wow, I thought. And I could date him now. I wouldn't be embarrassed in front of my girlfriends. At one of my friends' parties, I had the nerve to take Billy's hand. That's how we started dating. And we were good together. We were in different cities. And Billy was a year older than me. We didn't stress each other out much. Billy came over to my house after school. We'd hang out in my room, watch shows, make out. It would have been okay if it hadn't been for my brother Steven. He was a couple years older than me, and we were always at odds with each other. He's been bullying me since I was a kid, because he was forced to babysit me when I was a baby. And he got back at me using every opportunity he could. A powerful slap from Stephen was always in lieu of a greeting. He ate my morning cereal to spite me, and he also managed to tie the laces of my sneakers, which caused me to fly headlong across the threshold more than once. And hiding my backpack, putting salt in my tea, planting a big artificial spider in my bed, it was always Stephen who found new ways to get on my nerves. He was in his senior year, and I couldn't wait for him to go off to college. And life would be beautiful. I tried to complain to my parents once, but Stephen became even more cruel in his taunts. So I had patience and just waited for him to go off to college. When Stephen found out that Billy and I were dating, I was expecting another round of heckling, but he didn't react at all. He hadn't seen Billy in months either. And when the stylish, grown-up, and now my boyfriend showed up on our doorstep, Stephen had kind of quieted down. And good. Billy and I would lock ourselves in my room, and no one would bother us. One weekend, my parents went to the lake for a vacation, and Stephen and I stayed home. I decided to have a romantic evening with Billy and me. I cleaned my room, bought some goodies, found a good show on Netflix, and ran to get my nails done. Billy and I were supposed to meet at 7 p.m., and I hinted to him that my parents wouldn't be home all weekend. Billy nodded back. He was always a little shy, but I am okay with that. I went quickly home from my manicure appointment at almost 7 to get my makeup done. And when I entered the living room, a surprise was waiting for me. They were watching a basketball game on the big couch, and they were laughing. Who it was, you'll find out in a second. But now, please subscribe to the channel and put a bell. There are many more interesting stories to come. Thank you. So, on the couch, my Billy and Stephen were laughing their asses off. I was a little shocked, and Stephen quickly moved away from Billy. As you can see, my romantic evening was ruined. The guys watched the game until late at night, and I freaked out and went to my room. I came downstairs in the morning, not realizing I'd run into Billy in the kitchen. "What are you doing here?" I exclaimed. Stephen came in and smiled, telling me that they'd stayed up late last night, and Billy had fallen asleep in the living room. I thought Billy was going to apologize for last night, and he and I would go on a date somewhere together. And we did. We went to a movie theater to see a hard-hitting action movie, which I can't stand, the three of us, with Stephen. And the amazing thing was that Billy suggested it. On the other hand, it must be cool that my boyfriend was friends with my brother, I thought. But I couldn't stand Stephen's company at all. Billy and Stephen didn't seem to notice me either. At the movie theater, they were discussing the movie amongst themselves, crunching their popcorn loudly, and I was pissed so much. The weekend was ruined. On Monday, during the third class, I felt a headache. so I asked to go home. I opened the door with my key and immediately went up to the second floor. I thought I would go to bed, but I heard music coming from Stephen's room, and the door was slightly ajar. Just enough for me to see Stephen, who was whispering something in my Billy's ear. What the hell was that? I couldn't help myself and I opened the door sharply. Stephen blushed and jumped to his feet. Billy almost jumped away from him. I was like, oh no. I didn't even want to think about it. It couldn't be. My brother and my boyfriend? They were silent. I locked myself in my room, not knowing what to say. I mean, it was all upside down. Maybe I was imagining it, but in the last few days, Billy's attitude towards me had changed, or was it all in my head? What do you think? Please write. Help me understand this situation.
My name is Suri. I'm in my senior year. And accidentally, for a week, I became the star of the local papers. It all started 2 years ago, with an unforeseen conference in London that my mom and dad were supposed to attend. She left me home alone, but no one worried about it. For one thing, my grandmother was a block away, and for another, I was often left alone and felt at ease. So, I spent the evening in a cafe with friends, very tired. And as soon as I got home, I took a shower and went to bed. It was almost midnight. I fell right into a deep sleep. At night, I woke up thirsty. I got out of bed and decided to go down to the kitchen for some juice. When suddenly, I heard a rustling behind the door. I heard it somewhere behind the door, but it was very strange. I tried to calm myself down. Maybe it's Corny, my cat. Sometimes he stays up at night and creeps around the house. Or maybe a bat had flown in through a half-open window somewhere, which also happens. I reached my hand out to open the door, but the rustling sounded again, and I thought I heard footsteps. There was a key sticking out of the door. I slowly squatted down and tried to pull it out. It seemed like an eternity had passed, and when I had the key in the palm of my hand, I looked through the keyhole. Before I continue, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and make sure you have clicked on the bell. Then, you'll know when there's a new video coming out on the channel. I felt sick. I saw a man wearing a mask, standing in the hallway looking around. My heart pounded so loudly that I thought the whole house could hear it. I swallowed slowly. I had to put the key back in the keyhole and lock the door from the inside. And if the thief headed for my room, I'd have time to get out the window. With trembling hands, I put the key back in the keyhole and turned it. My hands and neck were sweating. I licked my chapped lips and listened to every noise. The thief moved to the left. Into my parents' bedroom. The footsteps fell silent. What should I do? I had to call the police. And the phone. It's downstairs. My legs buckled. I have to go downstairs now. While the thief is in my parents' room. Trying not to breathe, I carefully turned the key and opened the door even more slowly. I looked around. No one was in the hallway. Whew. I tiptoed quickly down the hall and down the stairs. There's the phone. In the kitchen. I dialed 911 and whispered softly, "Help me! There's a thief in the house, help me!" Just as I said that, I heard footsteps. Oh no, he's coming down. Where can I hide? I crawled under the table. My teeth were chattering with fear. I could hear footsteps coming closer There he comes down the stairs. The last step, going to the kitchen. Near the door. Here he is. I tried not to breathe. I saw his shoes, which step by step approached the table under which I was hiding. And suddenly, I heard a crack. A loud crack. The front door had been kicked in. The lights went on everywhere and 2 policemen ran into the kitchen and immediately tied up the thief. A 3rd policewoman pulled me from under the table and cradled me in her arms. I was shaking like a leaf, and the thief was looking at me. Those eyes. I could not forget the terrible gleam of those eyes. He was arrested, but by some strange coincidence he got off with only 1 year in prison. I followed the news closely, so I knew for sure. I wasn't worrying about it. My parents had installed a new security system in the house, so I didn't feel anxious. 2 years went by. I went to the supermarket nearby to buy yogurt. I was chatting with a friend and was not really looking around. I walked up to the dairy products rack and saw a man who was shoveling juice from the next rack into his bag. I froze. I recognized him. Those eyes. He looked at me and smirked, but I wasn't confused. I took a big bottle of milk and threw it at him. I hit him, and then I screamed at the top of my lungs at the whole store, "Thief! Juice rack! Help!" Security reacted instantly. They tied him up, they called the police, and I was interviewed by several local newspapers. And only now I realized that I could really sleep in peace. The thief is behind bars for a long time. I did the right thing. And what would you have done? Tell me. I'm very curious.